In this video, we're going to briefly introduce what organic chemistry is, as well as look at a term called a homologous series and what that looks like for one homologous series of compounds in organic chemistry. So let's start out with, well, what is organic chemistry? Organic chemistry is defined as the study of carbon-containing compounds. Now, carbon's really unique because carbon atoms can join together to form really long chains and rings to make all of these amazing different kinds of compounds that have many uses in everyday life. So, for example, carbon-containing compound of carbon dioxide released from cars and emissions. DNA has lots of carbon-containing compounds within it. Methane, which is one of the greenhouse gases, that is also an organic compound. We've seen benzene already. That has some really amazing properties. And ethanol, alcohol, like that's another really great example. So lots of really great sort of examples of different kinds of carbon-containing compounds, and really kind of the sky's the limits in terms of how carbon can be combined together. Now, one such family of carbon-containing compounds are called the alkanes. And we're not going to concern ourselves so much in this video about what alkanes are, but we want to take a look at a few different kinds of definitions that we're going to need throughout looking at organic chemistry. Alkanes really are these carbon-containing compounds that contain only carbon to carbon and carbon to hydrogen bonds. They are a family of hydrocarbons, and the first 6 members of this family are shown here. So they are methane, ethane, propane, butane, pentane, and hexane. Now, if you recall from previous videos, the empirical formula is our smallest possible formula, whereas our molecular formula is the actual molecular formula. So we can write a molecular and an empirical formula for all of these compounds. So, for example, methane has both the same molecular and empirical formula of CH4. Ethane's molecular formula is C2H6, but we can simplify that down to the empirical formula of CH3, and we could keep going down this list to take a look at both the empirical and molecular formulas for the first 6 members of this family. Now, another one we're going to need is structural formulas. So this is drawing out the structures of these compounds and showing each carbon and what it's attached to. There are 2 kind of types. The first is condensed, and the second is full. So in the condensed structural formulas, you show each carbon, and then you just write how many hydrogens or other things are attached to it after the carbon. So the condensed formula for methane would just be CH4. In ethane, we have 2 carbon atoms joined together. Each one is attached to 3 hydrogens, so its condensed structural formula would be CH3, CH3. Next one, propane, 3 carbons. The 2 outer ones have 3 hydrogens, and the inner one has 2, and so on and so forth down this series. So you're showing each carbon and how many hydrogens are attached to it, but you're condensing it down as compared to the full structural formula, where you show each carbon atom as well as what it's attached to. And you show all the bonds. So in methane, for example, we have 1 carbon, and we're showing the 4 hydrogens attached to it here. Looking at the next one, ethane, 2 carbons, and there are 6 hydrogens attached, 3 each to those carbons, and so on. So we could do propane here, 3 carbons, and then each carbon has hydrogens attached to it. One thing you really need to keep in mind for organic chemistry is that carbon always forms 4 bonds. So whether it's for single bonds, whether it's a double bond and two single bonds, whether it's two double bonds, whether it's a triple bond and a single bond, it always should have 4 connections to it. So really important as we kind of go through organic chemistry that you remember that. So those are all your different types of formulas. The last one is a skeletal formula. Sometimes you might see this given to you, but you don't necessarily want to use this for your drawings, especially for IB where it's not allowed. So basically all it is a line where each point on the line is a carbon atom. So the skeletal formula for ethane would just be a line. For propane, it'd be 1 line and then 2 lines. So there's a carbon here, here, and here. But we don't actually write the carbons in there. We just show the lines. So you have to know that each sort of point of the line is a carbon atom, and then there are hydrogens attached to it to fulfill the fact that carbon always forms 4 bonds. So butane would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoops, I got one too many there. Let's erase that one there. Perfect. Okay. So those are all the skeletal formulas. But for IB, you do not want to draw those as your diagrams. You're sticking with full or condensed structural formulas. So really now what we need to do is define what a homologous series is, because what we just looked at was a homologous series. So a homologous series is a series of compounds that have the same functional group. We'll go over what functional groups are in another video, but alkanes are they have one type of functional group. In a homologous series, each member differs from the next by a common structural unit, usually CH2. So, for example, in the alkanes, they all differ by 1 carbon and 2 hydrogens. They also have some really common characteristics. They will have a general molecular formula. For alkanes, it's CnH to the 2n plus 2. So you can have CH4, you could have C2H6, C3H8, and so on. They also have similar chemical properties, so that's how a substance reacts. And they also have a gradation of physical properties such as boiling points. And that is due to the increase in intermolecular forces that are present. So for example, if we took a look at the boiling points of the first, we've got the first 8 alkanes here. They increase as the carbon chain goes up. So the boiling point is going up as the alkane chain gets longer. And this is the case for any homologous series. As the number of carbon atoms in a molecule in any homologous series increases, the boiling point or the melting point, you could do the same sort of comparison, will also increase as well. Now, to explain this in alkanes, if you recall, alkanes have London forces. And London forces only because they're made up of carbons and hydrogens. There are no molecular dipoles here. And so, as we know, as London forces will increase as the size of the molecule increases. So that's going to result in an increased boiling point. We'll take a look at some other boiling points of other homologous series in further videos, but that's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one.